morning and welcome to the Senior Hour, which is sponsored by Santa Clarita In-Home Care and Advanced Audiology. I'm Barbara Cochran with my co-host,
Dr. Gene Dorio,
on your hometown station AM 1220 KHTS. This is a show for, about, and by seniors, giving information to enhance one's quality of life. And our guest this morning, speaking of quality of life, is Dr. Thomas Pilecki, who is a chiropractor in this valley.
Good morning.
How are you?
It's good to be back. Thanks.
Yes, it's good to have you.
and we love to have you here, Thomas, because whenever you are here, it becomes controversial. Now, happy holidays, everybody. Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah.
Happy Hanukkah.
But it's a season where, everything is joyous. But there are things that are serious that are going on, not just in our community, but nationally, that we have touched on many times before in the past on this show. And it is related to healthcare.
Sure.
And healthcare for the public, the people, and our nation is important. If we don't have healthcare, then we cannot compete in the world marketplace. It's not going to happen.
This is true.
So when you have other industrialized countries competing with us, who's going to win that battle?
Well, 35 of them are doing a better job than we are.
Correct. We're 36 actually, because we're 37.
Right.
And we brought this up before. That's a World Health Organization, and some people like to downplay that group, but I mean, it's been out there for decades and decades. But they have stated that the health care rendered to Americans is not good.
Yeah.
And we asked the question why, and at what level should we all be questioning that? Because, ultimately, it's survival of our children and our grandchildren, our nation.
Oh, that's true.
That healthcare be established here. And when you are spending money on your deductible, on extra payments, on medication, on being hospitalized, and not getting anything for that, you're in trouble.
Well, a lot of people are being forced into an HMO situation simply because Medicare, which was the original socialized medical system, which, granted, has its flaws, but essentially works.
Oh, yes, it does.
Has become too expensive for most people to handle. It's $500 a month on average. That's what you have to pay with the money that's taken out of your pension, the money that's taken out of whatever annuity you might have, just to cover your premium in healthcare, in Medicare. And then that doesn't necessarily cover everything. It's only 80%. And these HMO insurance vehicles, their companies, they capitalize on that, and they say, listen, it's even though you're paying $500 a month for coverage, you're not covered completely. God forbid you have any kind of serious thing where you have to go to the hospital or you have any kind of extended care. That 20% can be staggering. That 20% can wipe someone out in a matter of days of intensive care, much less weeks or months of it. So a lot of people switch over to the HMO portion of it, some kind of managed system that most people feel more comfortable with, but you're limited to whatever that network is.
That's exactly right. That's why I do not have an HMO.
Right.
I have a PPO.
You have choice.
Yeah.
You get
Yes,
choice. You
absolutely.
get to choose your
Yeah,
doctor. You get your
very
pharmacy. You get to choose all the professionals around you. You have choice.
Yes, and
But
that's
when you
very
go
important to me.
So you get to come to see me. I
Yes.
accept government issue Medicare. In fact, every chiropractor doesn't have a choice. They have to accept government issue Medicare. Now, as far as the HMOs are concerned, pretty much nobody accepts it. When it comes to chiropractic, they can say that the HMO, oh yes, you have the same benefits, you can go, you can do whatever you want. But
when you're healthy.
Well, yeah, when the reality is that anytime managed care gets involved in the state of California, it's by a third party. It's no longer by the Medicare. It's no longer by the insurance company that issues that HMO. It is managed a third time by an outside agency. So the insurance company can say that, oh yes, we offer chiropractic, we have all these things, and they can keep their hands clean with it because it's managed outside of the insurance company. It's managed by a third party, which totally undermines and limits all chiropractic access. There's a hard ceiling on 5 visits, no diagnostics, no x-rays, just 5 treatment visits. Whether the person gets better or not, that's all they're covered for. Regardless of the situation. There's no appeal. There is an appeal process, but it's bogus.
Yes.
There's no point. You can fill out 20 pages of paperwork and you're not going to get more than 5 visits. So doctors who have agreed to those terms, first of all, I'm skeptical on why anybody would agree to those terms, try to make it up in some other way. They say, oh yes, you can come in, and yes, the chiropractic, it's whatever, your $10 copay. And then they have to try to sell you something else in order to make up for the difference. I won't play that game. It's unethical. I think it's just not right. So I tell people in advance, I say, no, we're not part of that network. Here is my standard rate. Here's what I do for people who are in that situation, and I let them know in advance that it's going to cost something here, and it's a substantially reduced rate for people on fixed income, people who are Medicare eligible but can't afford real Medicare anymore. And that's the way that we deal with it in our office, and it seems to work out fine for those who really have a legitimate. This is the largest growing segment of our population, and it's the fastest growing segment of my practice. By the time you get into your senior years, you have accumulated some stuff. You have chronic back pain. You have chronic shoulder pain. You have chronic conditions that aren't going to go away, that may be managed by a lot of medication, but it doesn't get any better. The more anti-inflammatories, the more painkillers, the more medication you're taking on a daily basis, they all have their complications. They all have their side effects. But if you can move freer, if you can feel better, if you can get out of bed and not be so stiff, not be so pain, not because you're taking handfuls of pills every day just to make that happen, but because you're actually addressing the accumulation of injuries, the accumulation of wear and tear, and you're getting more free moving, and at the same time, as you know, working on flexibility, working on balance, working on coordination. And if there's ever any kind of a nutritional issue, I also have 3 advanced certifications in functional diagnostic nutrition, functional medicine, metabolic typing. So I'm pretty uniquely qualified to address nutritional questions.
Well, it's interesting, I do have a chronic back problem.
Most people do.
Yeah, and I guess a lot of it is age, plus if you fall at my age, you don't come out of it very. No, it doesn't help very much. But chiropractic has helped.
Yeah,
it definitely has. But I've learned if I jump out of bed in the morning, I'm almost on the floor.
Yeah.
But what I've learned to do is when I wake up, I stretch in bed. Stretch the legs, stretch the arms, and I try to sit up slowly. And then I'll put my legs on the floor, sit there, and get up slowly, and I'm fine. But I have to do it slowly and in increments.
Sure.
Now, when I was younger, I'd bound out of the bed and bound down the hall, and, my mind goes 90 miles an hour. But it says to my body, slow down.
I saw you coming into the studio, and you were bounding in.
But that's what I've always done. And
That's your nature.
It's very disconcerting to me that I'm not able to do that anymore. But I have to accept it.
What our seniors, though, face are these chronic problems that Thomas has brought up. But if it needs treatment to get to that point, there are a lot of third-party deniers that say,
Sure.
give them drugs,
Yep.
let's get them hooked,
Yep.
let's just do the simple way, write that prescription and wash your hands of it.
Yep.
Instead of doing the x-ray, doing a scan, seeing a neurologist, or whatever needs to take place. It's denied. And because it's denied, these chronic problems remain chronic problems. Not that they can get better, but they can allow you to have quality of life and function within your home. Is this a problem, though? This is the controversy and the elephant in the room right now, that our seniors are having to pay out of pocket for a lot of the diagnostic testing that would help them out. For instance, you have back pain. We're not going to pay for a scan. And then it was a disc that was pushing on a nerve, and now you're paralyzed. Now, what kind of life are you going to have then when somebody who is just paper pushing says, no, you can't have a scan?
Go ahead.
It's interesting, too, if they are injured, the doctor will put them on hydrocodone or stuff like that.
Almost a guaranteed addiction.
Yes, it is. In fact,
these morphine-based
my
drugs.
son has a medical marijuana dispensary, and when I was going through cancer several years ago, the doctor gave me hydrocodone for the pain. He came in and saw me taking that medication. He said, "What are you doing? Killing yourself?" If the cancer doesn't kill you, those will.
So he gave you a joint.
No, he gave me CBD pills. And
I'm light up. Don't bogart that. Pass it around.
Share it with me.
He sells only medical marijuana. And you have to have a doctor's prescription. And Dr. Black gave me a prescription. And as long as I had it, Scott was fine with it. You know, he provided them for me. But you also sell the CBD pills.
CBD is a little bit different than medical marijuana. It is the medicine in marijuana. There's two main active ingredients in marijuana, and there's some controversy over what really does the job. But in the science, my understanding of the science is the CBD is the neuroprotective, the thing that protects nerves, helps nerves heal. It's in mother's milk. There's no trippy, there's no mildly hallucinogenic, there's no weird psychoactive substance in it. It is purely a neurological, it's almost a neurotransmitter. There's receptors for it in almost every single cell in your body. For so long, we thought that things like the runner's high and all these things that were these feelings of euphoria, these feelings of instant pain relief when you hit a certain point in your body, we used to say, these are endorphins. And endorphins are your internal natural morphine system, your internal natural painkillers. Well, it turns out that the way that things work, it can't be endorphins. It can't be endorphins that trigger those responses. There are endorphins. There are these things out there. But the things that we used to associate all of these sensations that we have in the past thought that, that's endorphin. It's not. It's CBD. And we're just starting to realize how integral cannabinoids are in brain neurotransmitter, emotions, physiology, all kinds of how the body really functions. So CBD is short for cannabinoids, and the cannabidiol is one of them that you don't need a medical marijuana card for, because there is no illicit part of it. There is no psychoactive part of it. It is purely It's a supplement. It is part of your normal physiology. I have seen some amazing things. Sanjay Gupta, somebody pretty common. He's
absolutely.
been touted by the last 3 administrations. They all want him to be an advisor, and he's turned it down for the last 3 administrations. But you see him on TV.
Oh, absolutely.
He did an hour-long documentary on CBD about, in certain instances, this is a absolute miracle drug. I'm not saying it is the answer for everything, and it's certainly not even appropriate for a lot of conditions, but in certain things, it is pretty amazing.
But let's apply that to a social problem we have here in Santa Clarita. We have a heroin problem.
Yeah.
And our children, even, they're not our children, they're older even.
Right.
But lots of people are using heroin,
Sure.
and people are dying in our community. And it's been said by government and the authorities that there are gateway drugs that are bringing many people to heroin. And one of those are pain medications that doctors prescribe. So I sit there and I listen to these people blame doctors, point the finger at me too, and say, you're not doing it right. Why aren't they saying, okay, if we're going to limit these medications, why aren't we turning to something else that the medical professionals can use instead of these prescription medications? Why aren't we looking at this alternative and going about this in a logical way, as opposed to pointing fingers, putting people in jail, locking them up? I mean, you hear about in Arkansas or Kansas or somewhere where somebody's locked up for life.
Well, there are whole towns that are addicted to prescription painkillers. Here, it's complicated. The bottom line is a lot of the way that the healthcare industry is run has absolutely nothing to do with health. In fact,
what does it have to do with?
Bottom line profit. Bottom line profit for a very small group of people.
In the room is profit.
A very small group of very high end decision makers. They're just interested in how much money they can make off of this, because as we said earlier in the segment, there are 36 countries doing a better job at a fraction of the price. In fact, all 36 of those countries combined are just a little bit more than what we spend on healthcare.
This is the controversy that we wanted at the beginning of the show, and we're getting to it, but guess what? We got to take a break. So we're talking with Dr. Thomas Palucki. I'm Dr. Gene Dorio with my co-host Barbara Cochran on the Senior Hour on your hometown station, AM 1220, KHTS.